Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to the look at the week ahead for Sunday, the 5th of August, 2018. My oh my, how's the year flown by? We're over halfway through the year, and I just don't know where it's gone. Want to thank everybody for coming here. It's a pleasure to be able to visit with you today. Let's go over a few things that are going on in the markets. You can always look at hitandruncandlesticks.com. Myself, I am on StockTwits at stocktwits.com/1973hog. And the YouTube, oh, wait a minute, that's not true anymore. It's Top Gun Futures. I'm sorry, we changed that. Thank you for catching that. All right, and you got my YouTube page. If you miss anything, or if you want to go out and every day I put out some trade ideas. Good, Ed. Thanks a lot. I'll have to update my slides here. I just use the same ones over and over again, and I just absolutely spaced out on that one. I apologize. All right, disclaimer, trading involves risk of loss of capital, so make sure that you only trade with money that you can afford to lose. You don't need it to live on. And it's a little bit about me in case you want to find out. If you want more information, just ask. I'll be happy to talk ad nauseum about my life, especially in the aviation world. Love it. All right, tonight we're going to talk about the economic calendar, the earnings calendar, and we're in the midst of earnings season, although we're kind of probably at the peak and going down. Trade ideas and some Q&A, some things that are not stock specific, maybe things that were on something I talked about with a pattern or what my setups are and whatever. And in whatever remaining time, we'll look at some stocks. No more than one, please, and don't put it out until we put up the crosses. And then Ed, if you would be so kind, as after a couple of minutes, put the extra crosses at the bottom so that we aren't here all night. All right, economic calendar. What's coming up ahead is nothing on Monday, really. Tuesday, you got Redbook and Jolts. Petroleum report on Wednesday. Our weekly jobless claims now, and the PPI on 8:30 on Thursday. Then Friday, we have the CPI at 8:30, Baker Hughes rig count at 1. And I have never known the Treasury budget to be a green dot. But that's what it shows up there to be. All right. This is the earnings calendar. Yikes. Well, I'm going to post another one up here for you guys to read. So you get it in a PDF form, so it's a readable format. And there's a bunch, but you notice how that really starts to tail off on Thursday? Yeah, so we're getting on the backside of earnings here. All right, let's go straight on over to the markets. U.S. dollar. U.S. dollar has been in this trading range from about 94 to 95.5 for about a month now, maybe actually more, so since the first part of June, end of May. And we haven't broken out of it. We just kind of bounced around in it. So we'll see what happens. If I go back out to a 6-month chart, you can see how the 50-day moving average is kind of caught up with it. We got kind of ahead of ourselves. And now, if we're going to start another move up, let's go back to a year. Oh, let's go to a 2-year weekly. We basically have come up to this 95 level you can see here in the October of last year. And that's what I thought we were originally going to break it. We broke down from there. But we've got a long ways to go up to the highs. But let's take it one step at a time. We have to get over 95.5. My stochastics RSI is getting close to the oversold condition. It is saying that we're more likely to do a pullback than a breakout. Crude oil. Crude oil is stuck in a range right now from, let's call it 66 and change up to about 70.50. So we're in this range right now. We're going to need some impetus to get us out of that trading range. We're basically bouncing either side of the volume at price level. Let me adjust that this week again. It's approximately 68.25. Let me go it here. All right, plus or minus $1.50 or so of 68.25, kind of bouncing on either side of it. But that's where the most volume has occurred in this 3-month chart. We go to a 6-month chart. That number basically doesn't change. It stays approximately the same. So we're going to have a heck of a time getting out of that range. We're going to need some big time impetus to get us out of there. Gold, I'm going to back off to a year. And you can see here we broke down below the 1250 level for gold. And there it is right there. And then in the near term, let's go to a 3-month really. Gold has been a short since about the middle of June when it broke through the support around 1280. It went down to about 1240, bounced up to 1250, 55, and then went lower. Right now, we're either doing a dreaded H, where this puppy is standing on its side. It's almost the lounge chair, where it's down and bounces. Let me try that in green so we can actually get some contrast there. So we've got it down. There's the lounge chair. I suspect that we're trying to form a double bottom here because stochastics RSI is starting to curl up. The way that's going to work is that we're going to have to get over 1230 to 1240. If we just kind of go in here and bounce around and then go down, like if we don't get above 1240 to 1235 fairly quickly, it's going to be in danger of collapsing. And silver's not a whole lot better. It's basically following the same. All right, let's go on over to the equity markets. The S&P, I'm going to have to go out to a year so we can get up to the highs. John, David, let me, when it comes to the non-specific questions, remind me of that one and I'll cover it, and I'll actually show you some links to information. I'll do a better job of describing it than I possibly could. All right, but the RSI, the stochastics RSI, are extremely different. Now, we kind of attacked this level here around 2840 to 2850, but 2875 or 80 is hanging out there, the highs in January. But we're doing a pretty good job lately of not pulling back more than the 50-day moving average, which we did in June. That kind of got some people scared. Each one of those is kind of a regeneration point. And most of the time, we're pretty much following what I have as my 17 exponential moving average. The short-term moving average I have is a 3. Then I have an 8. Let's zoom in on this a little bit. This little gold line here is a 3 exponential. That's really my canary that I take into the coal mine to see if we're going to have any deadly gas kind of leak out there, and it gives me a heads up. Like when we started to collapse back through the 8 and the 17 on the 3, that gave me an indication that we were going quite a bit lower and confirmed what I saw in this stochastics RSI. The light blue is the 8. That's Rick's trigger line, the T line. And that's a pretty good one to follow. And I've added the 17 exponential. Some people use a 20 simple. Some use, like Doug Campbell, uses the 34 EMA. Regardless, it's 2 or 3 moving averages to help us visualize the trend, and that's all they're there for. All right, let's look at the NASDAQ. Let's go back into a 3-month chart. All right, up, pulled deep back in June, went up to all-time highs. Let's go back out to a year. We got above the highs that we got in March. The January highs were not the high highs. And in fact, in June, we got higher. So we're getting higher highs and higher lows from a basic perspective if you look at the weekly chart. So this has been in very, very bullish condition, except for probably this February dip down and again the March-April dip. That caused a little bit of concern, but it just came back basically to dip slightly underneath the overall long-term average there. Okay, right now we've got a ways to go to attack the all-time highs. We're at kind of a critical juncture here at about 74.25. My stochastics RSI is still pointing upwards, so that tells me we probably have a couple more days probably left to the upside, or at least not down. The dip at the end of July was a little bit substantial, more than I would have expected, and it dipped all the way down to the 50-period moving average. Russell. The Russell/IWM is causing me some concern. And the reason I say that is that we're making lower highs. Let me mark this up. Here, that was equal to slightly lower. This was a little bit lower, and right here we made a slightly lower. Here's a low, here's a higher low, here's kind of an equal to slightly lower low, and that's a lower low. So what this is telling me is we're kind of rounding top and rounding on the bottom. So if I were to kind of put those all together, what I think I'm getting an indication of is a rounding top, and the bottoms are finally starting to catch up. Now that's only in one index. Now that could turn around in a heartbeat, but that means maybe we're having rotation going on. People that rotated out of the big caps into the small caps in the May-June time frame, maybe early July, they're not necessarily so gung-ho about them at the moment. All right, let's look at the Dow. This is a 6-month chart. The Dow was really concerning me a lot in the end of June. That's how deep it was getting. It just pulled back to the 50 and hung with it for a long time. I mean, a week or so, a long time for me. And this was getting to the point where I thought that we might break to the downside. Fortunately, we broke hard to the upside and kept going. We went up to the June swings, which is about equal to the March swing. I need to go back to a year so I can show you where the intermediate highs are. This is kind of an outlier here at the end of February. I'm not sure what happened. It was probably some sort of earnings event for one of the Dow stocks, and we got up here, and that was really the outlier. The real line is somewhere around 25,375, and we need to get going to get up here towards those highs. Stochastics RSI is actually pulled back and curling up from the bottom. This is giving me an indication that we may want to go higher here in the Dow. And you compare that to the other index that has a lot of multinationals. The Dow's lagging behind. The ES really has it going up. Talking about the tech-heavy NASDAQ, looks a lot like the ES. If you look at the Russell, stochastics is pointing upwards. So it's probably not going to necessarily roll over right today. And my stochastics is just getting started. I call it stochastics, really stochastics RSI, but that's a mouthful. It's just getting started the upside. So I think we've built up enough energy to go attack these highs here at least. All right, let's look. The U.S. 10-year, it backed off a bit on Friday. We don't know what it's going to do on Monday, but once we start trading 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, we'll get an indication of where that goes. And the VIX. The VIX on Friday closed down below 12 again. If we go back out a 6-month period, you can see how we basically have been down at this 12 point level for quite some time, with minor excursions up to about 17 to 18. Only did we get higher was back in there in the huge sell-off in February. All right, let's go back. All right, trade ideas. I have about 10 or 11 of them. And if you follow this link out to FinViz, on FinViz you'll be able to see all of the charts drawn for you, and then you can zoom in. And that's, I like to put those out with the trade ideas and the link to the little thumbnails of the charts, so you can look at them really quickly and decide which ones that you want to drill down on. All right, let's go over to TC2000, and I'll show you these. Allison is one of them. We went up here on earnings. We're mostly going sideways. If I show you the 3-day chart, you can see how it's consolidating, and the 2-day chart shows how it's consolidating. If we go look at the weekly, you can see that we're looking to break. We've already broken out above all-time highs. Now, Stochastics RSI on the weekly looks a little tired, may have to go sideways again. Does look that same way on the 3-day, and the daily is already starting to get close to a rollover. But price is king. Get ourselves over this 47.50 level or so, and it could move. So it needs to be on our watch list, even if it isn't this week. Avery, I want to see a 3-day chart, and you'll see how it's basically gone sideways to slightly up, and at 120 is in play. Now, so if you have a long enough time horizon, maybe a weekly chart, 3-day chart, and there's the daily chart, and you can see how the 120 might be in play here. One of my long-term holdings is Costco, and you can see where the red dots and green dots are. These are when I've sold. I have leaps, 2020 leaps this time around. I've been selling, covered call, and buying it back. Sell, buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell, buy. And it's letting her run now. And on the Fibonacci extensions, I've got a Fibonacci extension to 230 to 236. I'm not going to count the $240 one up there yet. We're really at a juncture where it could do the breakout. And my Stochastics RSI, and this is on a daily chart, is very strong, suggesting we're going to break out here. So I'm not in any hurry to sell another covered call at all. All right. You can see how this $200 level acted as resistance for a while, and why I was selling the covered calls up there. It was bouncing along it. This one right here, I sold an upside call, I think 215 or 220, and had to buy it back, and I probably didn't make any money on the call, but I definitely made money on the David, another question for the the general questions, please. That's a great question. I'd be more than happy to answer. Okay. Whoops. CSIQ. This is on the daily chart. I think we're headed to 1530. from here. This is a rounded bottom breakout. Rick's rounded bottom breakout target would be the 200-day moving average, but I think the moving average will come down to about 1530. So that's for about, you're going to need a buy signal either on the daily, on the 2-hour or 4-hour chart, or you're going to need it on the hourly chart. I think you're obviously going to get on the hourly chart first. It looks like it's curling up and going back towards 14. I could see it hit 1530 or higher. One that we went into last week here, and this is not necessarily for one that is a buy right now. What it is pointing out to you what I use on earnings. Would I see 25% short, and in the longer term I see a 27 and a quarter. I wrote down the 25. It's actually to 27. With 25% short, I was looking for a 45-degree runner. I let it close, go the next day, opens. Once this happened and it showed that it was going up, most of the extra premium that got pumped into it on earnings was sucked away, and now we're riding it to the upside and seeing how far it can go. I'm going to show you a couple of examples of, well, I want to do that right now. United Airlines did this one. Actually, I bought it midday and then wrote it up and got out. It showed that it might have an opportunity to go back higher. That wasn't that day. It was the next day. And it is probably going to trickle up to 83, but I don't think that it's a buy now. What it was is I looked at it pre-market. It was going to gap up to a swing level. If I had been able to follow it more closely, I could have probably gotten in a little bit earlier. But I was moderating in the chat room and on futures, so I didn't get to it around until midday. Fastenal came up here, came up and stopped at a swing level, and I waited for the next day to open, bought it up, and rode it to just short of the 58.50 level, which was the target, and now it's basically kind of gone sideways. You can buy these and play. This is how I play earnings. I don't play earnings before the release. I play earnings after the release. All right, ESIO, Garmin, about ready to break out. 88.5% basically the short interest. 65.50 is a level to get back over. When it gets over that, it's in clear blue sky. Here's one that popped up on earnings. Hess, and it's kind of rounding bottom. If I look at a 3-day chart, you can definitely see it a lot better. I think it goes back up to the $70 level where it was on earnings day. All right. And you can kind of see it here. We did have a breakthrough flip of the volatility stop on Friday. I'm already long this one. And I do think that you could get long with, you're going to have to fight this area here about $67. If I look at a 4-hour chart, you can kind of see where it is right over here. And if I look at a 2-hour chart, you can see still where it is. And if I look at the hourly chart, you can kind of see where it is, but it's not as pronounced. All right. I contend that these high volume spikes that haven't been retested get retested. So on this one, there was a spike at the end of the day, people going, but basically all right, let's move on. Doesn't seem to show the high volume spike as easily. It was there before, or at least I thought it was. Here's a short, or possible short, bearish flag on Intuit. I did look at some others out there, but most of them are not set up that way. Most of our stocks are set up to the long side. But this one, here's the problem. 202.5, you can run into some support, but that's almost $3 lower than we are on the close. This level over here around 198, that could act as support, but that's $7 lower. And then obviously we've got more over here to the left. You have to wait for a move down or maybe even an intraday bounce back up and retest this top line around 207, 207 and a half or so, and then watch it roll over. You see how it got up here, which is awfully close to where these levels are at 206.50. If this rolls over on an hourly chart, it'll look like a good short to me. CLAC, KLA 10 core. I think it heads to 123.50, and it's probably only about $3.50 right now. May not be the best entry, but you can look at this one as learn for the next time. When you see something that goes up and it goes near on really good earnings move, and it goes up to that swing level, put it on your watch list. I should have been in on Friday and I missed it. Don't get them all. Micro squish, really nice, good move up, pull back, kind of deep, but if you look at it on a 3-day chart, you can see that wasn't very deep, and on a weekly chart, you can't even recognize it. So let's do right here on the 3-day. I'm going to take the quad charts here in TC2000. It's basically the poor man's Fibonacci. And that's 0, 25, 50, 75, and 100% retrace. I can usually eyeball halfway between the two, and that's about 33%, and then 66%, and that's what a 0.382 and 0.618 on Fibonacci's. That's close enough for government work as far as I'm concerned. Anything that maintained a level over about 102.5 to 102.75 was more than adequate. It maintained above 50% on this retracement. When we do it on the daily, it pulled back to the 50% retrace, but it doesn't when I take it back to the intraday level here. So this is a quick and dirty. Love to see that quad. Thanks to Rick. Showed that to me, and we'll use it just fine. Now here's another 45-degree runner. Did earnings on that first date. It wasn't even close to a swing level. The target was up here around 121, 122, and it got there. I just could not believe how easily it got up there in 3 days. That was a big-time winner for us. Unisys. I'm surprised these guys are still in business, just the same as Rite Aid, RAD. Anyway, this one got up close to, actually on the earnings day, it got up to and slightly over the swing level and pulled back. The next day, it started to move higher and is still going. 19% short interest. When a stock reacts like that, set yourself an alert. When you got this much short interest, it gets above this level. You imagine yourself, you were short this puppy somewhere along in here. You're probably going to put your stop somewhere around this 15 to 15 and a quarter level. Volume tells you people are covering. Balance of power tells you people are covering. Stochastics RSI. People are buying. Whether they're covering or not, I don't care. It's buyers. You've got people who have never been interested in before are noticing the pattern. People who were somewhat bullish on it are taking the advantage of on the earnings. And people who were short are definitely interested buyers as well. The other one is UPS. This one hasn't quite worked out yet. But if I look at it on a bigger time frame, this is a 3-day, and a weekly chart. It's got room to about 135, 134, 135. So I've got options out in September. It's holding that support level, the breakout. As long as it holds that, and stochastics pulls back, it'll get us impetus for us to go higher. Last one on my list is XYL. It is not a buy yet, but it probably will be a buy over here around 76.50, going to about 80 bucks. All right. Now, before we go anything, I'm going to go up. John David had two very excellent questions. How do I distinguish between stochastics and stochastics RSI? Let me, right here, and I think it's going to be on, oh, it's TradingView, but this is Investopedia. Not yet, Sal. Not open for those. Jumped the gun. All right, this tells you, basically it's an oscillator of the RSI. So it's a stochastics of the RSI. So it's an oscillator of an oscillator. So it's 2 steps removed from price. I don't really care about how I went through that formula and whatever. All I've managed to do is that they say that if it gets below 20, it's oversold, and maybe there a correction. If it's above 80, that you've been extreme levels, you should watch for a pullback. Well, maybe not so fast. Let's look at some of these. Where we're looking at. Oh. Oh, here's one. I gotta remember that. Costco. Costco definitely is a good trader. If you notice here where this one got to the highs over here to the left, Stochastics RSI is at the top with my settings, 7733, and it curls over. I get a crossover, and I got a cross back up a little bit after it got to the bottom. But remember, I was doing a cover on it, so I wasn't going long. I was just trying to cover my short, so when it got down to a prior level, they couldn't get through it. I sold on that date. Well, it got here at a price level. It got up to the prior level. I said, you know what? I'm going to sell. And sure enough, it went down, and it was confirmed by Stochastics RSI. Okay, great. Thanks, DM. So basically, with this on 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 60-minute daily charts, it all works really well with those settings. Now, if I go to a weekly chart, sometimes they work and sometimes they don't work so well. It's really more rounded. So I'd probably have to have different settings for the weekly. But I have had a whole presentation, actually a paid for presentation on how I use Stochastics RSI. I could talk for hours about how to use it. But I've given you a glance at it, and we do talk about it in the room as well. So if you want to sign up for a 30-day free trial for either Hit and Run Candlesticks or Right Way Options, it's only $14 for a whole 30 days. I think you'll enjoy it. All right. Now, the other one was any reason to use TC2000 over TOS. Big time. Scanning is so much faster and so much easier to program your custom scans, in my opinion, in TC2000 than it is in TOS. And the other thing is managing watch list is so difficult in TOS. Like if I do a scan in TOS, I then have to copy and create a watch list and copy that over there. And it's cumbersome. This is only, if you buy it in 2-year increments, it's only $250 a year for the gold. Now, I don't use platinum. I don't think I need that. I don't think I need real time because I'm using daily scans. I'm looking at the big picture. So I can get away with $250 a year. What is that, $20 a month? I consider myself as an artisan and kind of a carpenter. And I have a toolbox. And I can't have just one tool in that toolbox, because if I have only a hammer, everything starts to look like a nail. So 250 years, $500 and something for 2 years. It might be a little bit higher than that, 260, but you're talking about less than $20 a month. And if you decide that you don't like it, if you tell them, I don't like it, refund me the money, they'll go back and recalculate if it was on a monthly basis and refund you the difference. I once tried Platinum, and I just said, I don't use this. I use Thinkorswim to do my trading on, and that's where I get my real-time charts. And so what I'll do is I'll find my watch list here. I'll copy these over to my watch list, copy it over to Thinkorswim, create a watch list here. Okay, whatever the, oops, sorry. And trade watch list here, and then open it up, and then I start watching these in real time on the platform I'm going to trade on. And I love it. That's exactly why I use that, John David, because I have a number of different tools that do specific things, and I put them into a process that works for me. Would that work for you? Maybe not. If it doesn't work for you, find something that works for you. You tell me if you try it. Okay, I'm not trying to beat the dead horse here, but I guess I am. Try it. If you don't like it, try something else. All right. ZD wants to know where I get short interest again. Okay. All you really have to remember. Oh, come on, baby. It's gone off to Never Never Land for a second. You bugger. I have no earthly idea. Can you guys still hear me? My computer frozen? Okay. No, that's okay. It's basically short squeeze. Well, now I can't even enter in I can't type anything. www.shortsqueeze.com. Then you enter. All right, let me do this. Let's go to Task Manager. I'll find the process that's giving me trouble. And looks like it might be coming back, or I may have crashed all of my Google Chromes. I'm not sure. Yeah. Okay. Let me see if I can get them back going again. Ain't technology wonderful? I'd suggest that you bookmark it and or put it in some sort of folder that you use. I use some Word documents. I have called it Temp 3 because I used to have a Temp 1 and then I had a Temp 2. And I just said, this right here, the True Banyan has 31%. Let's look at, what was the one that we're talking United Airlines we looked at? That's only 5%, but what about Grubhub? I'm long Grubhub from the other day, and it has about 10% into it. Intuit only has about 1.16. So if I'm looking to go short, I don't necessarily want a whole bunch of people already short the stock. If I get a rally, I want the short squeeze to happen. I want there to be a lot of people short, which means they'll have to rally. You'll find though a lot of times stocks that gap down. I look under, yeah, my number's roughly 10%, Chris. There's nothing hard and fast about that. It's just my number. It's around that. So what do I look at? Very first thing I look at the pattern. Grubhub. Grubhub went up, pulled back. And as it passed over this level here around 125, boom. Because it's a crowded trade. It's ripe for any kind of rally to just do a short covering rally. Pattern first, but if you're looking for a big move, you want on the way up, you want a lot of people to be short where they have to cover. Nah, Mel, not yet. We'll get to that in just a minute. We're like general questions at the moment still. Okay. So did that make sense, guys? Gals? No more general questions? All right. I'm going to put up and see if I can actually get it. Not yet. Don't get one more what? Go ahead, Z. Now make sure you put only one and you tell me whether you're long or short or looking long or short. What number? 10%. What I do is I look and see Grub. And I don't look number of days to cover. I look under percent of float. That's the number I look at. That's the one that's most important to me. Oh, Mel. Well, let's first of all, before we go over there, there's Cisco. It's low, so it's basically not very many people. We'll look at that in just a second. Let me go over there and minimize this puppy. All right, I'm going to do Cisco for you right now, Mel, because that's where I'm at. Cisco's in kind of a no man's land. However, Cisco did a bullish engulf on its earnings day. It gapped lower and then went up. Can you tell me, Mel, why you were interested in Cisco short? Was it because on this EMA only it was going down and that it gapped down and you went down, you got in early on the gap down day, the earnings day? If that's the case, yeah, I can see why you probably did it. But now it's rallying against you. You need to have a point where you're going to buy it back, where you can't stand the pain any longer. You need a trade plan before you enter a stock and say, what does this have to rally to, or what does it have to fall to for me to be proven wrong? Blake, I did that when I covered my 10 trade ideas, sir. And I posted them already. Allison, Avery, CSIQ. And it's going to be on my YouTube page in about an hour after this is over. All right. Okay. Let's go back and let me see if I can find who posted the first one. SPGI for Richie. All right, you might want to close it up now, Mr. Ed. SPGI. Richie, I sure hope you're not trying to go long and do a counter trend trade on this one. This one is in a downtrend. I'm going to show you the 3 amigos. In fact, I only usually use 2. The 3, 8, and the 17. This one's in a downtrend. That's on a daily chart. It basically changed about a week ago. A little over a week ago. It fell out of bed. This made obviously a lower low. Has not made a lower high, but this one actually is a candidate for a short. I'm going to call it a blue ice failure. If this one can rally to somewhere near the range of 204 to 206, close to that blue line, which is the 50-day simple moving average, it's a candidate to drop all the way down to the 200. This is an extremely, in fact, I would say any rallies up from 202, 204, 206 are opportunities to short rather than go long. Okay. Golfer Bill wants to look at NEO. And long on a breakout. So you're looking for, say, 1450 or so. Let's look at a 3-day chart. Got a weekly chart. Are we at all-time highs? Let me go to the area chart. Yep. You could have possibly, man, this was a huge gap down on a high volume. That was kind of a washout. So you probably could have gone in long anywhere here around above 14 with your stop on under 1350. The only problem I'd have with this is where's the stop going to be? If this one breaks out, it's likely to pull back. Let's just say that NEO does break out over this 1450 level. I would say it'll break out above like this and it'll pull back to somewhere near that and then curl back up. That might be where you want to go. Long. All right. CRZO. Look at Cruzo. You're long and it has earnings tomorrow after the close. It's not giving me any clue about what they think it's going to do. It's kind of drifting lower into earnings. Was your plan to allow you to hold over earnings or not? If not, you need to exit. If you do, then you're basically rolling the dice. If things hit, well, let's put it this way. If they hit what's expected, they don't necessarily get plastered. But if they miss in any way, shape, or form, or are perceived to have missed, they can get whacked. So you have to figure out whether you want to take it. Richie, you're trying to put in 2 of them there. ISRG, come on. Yeah, we're not. One at a time doesn't count. ISRG's in no man's land. Breakout's up, way up at 540. Breakdown is down at 500. We dipped down below it. Now we're back into, I don't know where it's going. Warren wants to look at VSI long. If you're long VSI, stay with it. Figure out what the game plan is. It looks like it goes higher. Let's look at the area chart. The area chart says that it could go up here around 10 or 11 bucks. Let's look at the weekly. Yeah, I can see this. We're about 10 and a quarter. That'd be my next target on this one. Looking pretty nice. Solid move up. Basically a flag going sideways, and now I'll move up again. Very nice. Nice trade. Joseph wants to look at HPE long. Well, let's look at the EMAs. Joseph, is this one, give me a second. Is HPA currently going from bottom left to upper right or upper left to bottom right? It was going up back here. It's going down now. It's going to have to make a higher high and a higher low before I'm interested in it. Let's go back to the daily. Let's see what we've got. These highs right here, those highs right there were equal. There's the low, there's a high, there's an equal low, a lower high, lower low, higher low, sorry, higher high, higher low, equal to higher high, call that higher low, lower low. So we've got this was forming. That's what I was looking at. And now it looks like it might be trying to break out of that downtrend. And that 50 period moving average is pretty much drawing the downtrend for you. But I'd feel a lot more comfortable if it got over this 16 to 16 and a quarter level. Sorry I didn't draw a straight line there. Let's do this. Feel a lot more comfortable about that level. Then you have from that level all the way up to here. Maybe $17. And it'll prove to you that it wants to go higher. Make these stocks earn your money. Mel Cisco, should I cover short? We covered that. Many, many thanks. Thank you. Welcome, ZD. Gwen. Hello, Gwen. How are you? You want to look at insomnia? Oh, boy. Moves $1.70 a day on average, 6.5%. This is not for the faint of heart there, sunshine. Yikes. It went up to that swing level and then it pulled back. That pullback's too deep for me. If you're long this one, be very careful. It looks like it probably wants to drop all the way back into its old trading range. What I like to do, I use technicals, but I also back them up with some limited fundamentals. And one of the fundamentals that I look at is anything that's related directly to the bottom line. Like, if it's earnings and it went up on that, okay. If it was an analyst upgrade, that may have a day's worth or maybe less. And if it was, some news that might float over the bottom line, like they announced some sort of phase 2, I don't know how many days it's going to have. And then it looks like they reevaluated the next day and the buyers went away. And the number of buyers there on that day was very, very high. That is not mom and pop selling on that day. More than likely it's a lot of the people that bought the day before, but you never know. All right. Hope that helps, Gwen. And I hope you're not long and under the water. And we want to look at Pepsi. Pepsi's heading up to this 118 to, let's call it now, maybe 121. But it has to get up over this 116 to 117 level first. It does look pretty good. The balance of power is pretty strong. Hang with it. Have a good stop in mind. And figure out what it's going to take to prove you wrong on this one. EA sold covered call for Vibal. That's Electronic Arts. Now, you want to sell a covered call because you own EA already, Vimal? I'll assume that that's what you're saying. No more stocks, please. Okay. I mean, Ed put it up there, but no more. Um, if you're just trying to sell a covered call on this one, I wouldn't. You're already long EA. There's a problem. It gapped down. You're underwater. Um, Working out a stock like that's going to be extremely difficult. It's going to exceed what I could say here without being construed as giving you some advice. Hold on one second. All right. Yeah, we're looking at this 136. If it gets back up to here, it could actually be a short. Which then short you do a covered call or you could buy a put. If you're underwater here or whatever, you need to try to find a way to work your way out. But I'm loath to really tell you any way to trade this. It would be stock specific, and I'd be probably getting very very close, if not exceeding, and giving you trading advice, and that's not what we're supposed to do. Sorry. David wants to look at GME long. I see GMA in just kind of a no man's land. See, that's looking right there. At some point, where you're going to break out above or break out below. We had good bop right after it reported earnings. Right now, it's gone into snooze mode. It's gone into hibernation. Let's look at a 3-day chart. Still looks the same. Look at a weekly chart. Still looks the same. The only good thing that I see different on the weekly chart is that every time we get down here about 1440 or so, buyers push it up. So there's still hope for this one. If you're already long that one, have a line in the sand that you will not let it exceed. It could be this trend line, which is a close below the 50 period moving average, probably. TLT. You have long interest in TLT. Well, look at the EMAs again. Down, kind of bounced around, and now going back down. We have rising interest rates. I don't know that I would be interested in going long bonds. Whoops. Got the wrong one again. I got to let it finish. We've got an inverted J hook going here. J hook being a move up, pull back, and then a move up. If you flip it around to the other side, it's a move down, a rally, and a rollover. That's really what we had. Now, it would take probably getting over 120.5 to get me interested long. And I don't see that happening right now, not with what's going on in the world. Okay. Yeah, don't worry about it, ZD. There are some people who come in, I think, just to razz us. If it gets too bad, I'll just kick them out of the room. Iridium, are you long ZD? Because that one looks okay. It's at all-time highs. Wow. Let's look at a 3-day chart. Still looking pretty good. 5-day chart still looking pretty good. If you're looking to go long, I'd have to wait for a dip. So, right. Blake Freeman is still here. It says a minimum of 2. Those things are created long before Those messages are created long before they actually get sent out. So it's a minimum of 2. Okay. You got the YouTube page already answered. Thank you very much, Ed. Appreciate that. Was planning to catch till 2:04 and then to go short. So thank you. Thank you. Gilfer Bill, I didn't remember what your stock was, but that's okay. You've got your stop in. And voila, you got the page again. Bob J wants to look at Tandem. If you're long already, fantastic. If you're not, wait for a pullback. This is getting too many days up. You got to wait for a pullback. And Sal, there's your FEYE. Thank you. And you probably figured out what I'm going to say right here. Why are you interested in some stock that's pointing down? Why are you interested in a long? This is zigzag, zigzag lower. Now, you could look, set up an EMA only chart. The way you do that, if you edit chart properties here, or at least you can do it in TC2000, is you take away the candles and you make them so you can't see them. Then you can watch and you see this is in a downtrend. I didn't need that EMA only to show me it's a downtrend. We can see it. There's a high, there's a low. There's a high, there's a lower low. There's a lower high, there's a lower low. There's a lower high, there's a lower low. To go short, that's what we want to see. To go long, we need higher low and higher highs. All right, that's what we're going to look at. I want the trend in my behind my back and in my favor. It will cover a lot of mistakes. All right, I don't know what an AdCom meeting is, Gwen. Sorry. Citrix for Bob. I don't know you're going to like this answer either. This one did too much of a pullback up on earnings. This level will eventually get retested, that high volume spike, but make it get back over. And Citrix is one of my favorite technology companies, but probably this level, yeah, this 110 level to 111. What you probably want to, we probably want to see, you and me both, we probably want it to get up here, make higher highs, then make a higher low, and then curl up. Then it's proven that it wants to go up, and we can have a tight stop. Okay. ZDS, oh no, you're not there. APA. Apache. Apache's kind of in the middle of Nowheresville. See how we're kind of bouncing between those levels. If it goes down below it, it's a short. Kind of get above this level right here, it might go up to the top, and so you could possibly play that. I don't know. Apache right now is just telling me, if anything, it's going lower. It hasn't totally proven this is the downtrend yet. Normally what I do is I try to pick out the top and pick out on the top, I pick out the top of the white candles. This was a temporary, and then it closed there, so that would be probably where I draw the line. Trend line, this one's kind of iffy. And let me take this over here. Take that one over there. And that's the wedge I'm drawing. Which way does it break out? I don't know. Right now, it looks like it wants to break out to the downside. Apache. ZDS, the question about VSI or comment. You say it has high short interest. Okay. What amount is too high? I don't know that it can be too high. It does show that a lot of people would disagree with what we're saying. So therefore, we would be contrarians to 35% of the market, or actually more than maybe 35% of the market, because 34% of the float, 35% of the float is short. So that's some big people that are saying it's going to go down. They may know more than we do. They may not. Yes, Confi, it is going to be posted in about an hour's time on my page. No, balance and power is not the same as on balance volume. Let's look here. Okay. Go here. Read up all about it. Ed, could you help me out one more time with the webpage, please, for those who didn't copy it down the first 2 or 3 times? Okay. Yep. Terry, you're right. J-hook. J-hook is a J shape. You don't see a J. Well, sometimes I don't see the patterns in Western candles, Western patterns either. But the J is really sitting on its side. You get a move up, pull back, and move up. And the J is this part right here. Now, if you flip it around the other way, you have a move down, curl back up, and curl back down. And this right here is the J that's turned on its side. Obviously, you won't get it to go backwards, but it's kind of a hook. And the J hook, the first I ever heard of it, the only place I've ever heard of the J hook really is from Stephen Bigelow. And I trade it a little differently than he does, but basically those are the same. Let's look here. I see the J hook. Yep. There's a J hook right here. I went to a 3-day chart and it went up. Whoops. Doggone it. If I hit the thing too fast, I grab the wrong. And that's my classic J hook. Move up, pull back, and move up. The J is kind of right here. Maybe it'd be better if it's called, I've called it now a zigzag. And because a lot of times it's V bottoms and V tops. Or it can be called a lightning bolt. Call it a candy cane, whatever. That's the look that I want to see. That's classic. Okay. That's classic. All right. No more Joe questions. Is it? Oh, well, that's fine. No, John. That's fine. Art said good night. Gwen told me about the FDA meeting. Balance of power. All right. Looks like we're done for the day. I'll go ahead and say thank you very much for everyone. If you're interested in the futures at all, we've got an open house going on now through the 31st of August. And no password required in this open house. You can stop anytime. We only trade in the morning from about 9:15 to about 11. And if you want to find out anything more, we've got all kinds of people just watching. And if you want to know anything about the futures, come on in and ask. All right, you guys have a wonderful day, or what if we be safe, be smart, aloha.